So you say you want to learn to cook meatloaf and you don't have a lot in your cabinets. Here's what we can do. So with a few ingredients, all you need to do is have your meat ready, chop up some onions, chop up some peppers. If you have y'all some Ritz crackers, we could do Ritz crackers, and a few spices, eggs, cheese, and of course mustard, ketchup, and your brown sugar for your topping, and milk for your meatloaf. We've got 2 pounds of ground beef, and we're going to add 1 finely small chopped onion. This is about a medium, so we'll put about 3/4 of that in here. That should be good. And we're going to add about 1 cup of finely chopped peppers. Most people use green. I like orange, yellow, and red. It's a little sweeter taste, and I think it gives it more depth of flavor. So we're going to do about that much of that. And we have a teaspoon of kosher salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. That'll go in. We have a teaspoon of oregano and a 1/2 teaspoon of Italian seasonings. Those will go in there. And we have 3 eggs. I always crack the eggs in a bowl first. That way, if there's any shells that fall in there, that's not getting into your food. So we'll add 3 eggs in. We have a 1/2 cup of milk, which I like to pre-measure and have ready to go. You know, if you get your ingredients ready and prepped like this before you cook, it makes it so much easier for cleanup, and it makes it easier for kind of organizing what you're doing and knowing what you did and what you did not forget. So the only thing we have left is we have Ritz crackers. It's a 1.5 sleeves of Ritz crackers that we put in the food processor. And the other thing sometimes I do when I'm cooking meatloaf with my crackers is I will take my spices and throw in the food processor with my crackers, and I blend them all up together so they're really nicely blended together. But I didn't do that. I wanted you to see the spices today. And we have 4 ounces of sharp cheddar shredded cheese. And that's all that goes in your meatloaf. Then at this point, you set your make sure you set your oven to 350 degrees and let that be preheating before you start all this. That'll give it time to heat up and get all ready. So while I mix this up, I'll be right back and show you what we do, putting it in the pan and sticking it in the oven. Okay, now that we've got our meat mixture thoroughly mixed, you want to get what I call a bread pan and lightly spray it with some non-stick coating spray. Take it out, and you want to form it into a loaf in your bread pan. You kind of press it down a little bit, but not too hard. Because you want the meat to be uniform in the middle so it can cook evenly. Now, we've preheated our oven to 350, and what we'll do is put it in for 30 minutes. And once we have 30 minutes and that timer goes off, you want to pull it out. And while that's cooking for 30 minutes, we're going to mix our topping, and you're going to start coating it after 30 minutes. If you put it on before you cooked 30 minutes, it's not going to stick to the top as well and get that nice glaze to it. And then when it's done, we'll refinish glazing it again. I actually use a little convection oven because it's just as easy to make 1 loaf in a little convection oven than heating up a huge oven and wasting all that energy. So we're going to set our meatloaf in the center. We're going to set our timer to 30 minutes. And when that goes off, we know we can glaze the first with the sauce. As we have 3/4 cups of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of mustard, and 2 firmly packed tablespoons of brown sugar that you also put in there. Just mix this up, and the longer it sits, the better it actually incorporates all the seasonings with the ketchup and stuff. And I don't buy top-notch, like I usually get the store brand ingredients because they're just as good as some of the name brands. And I've not found a difference. I've tried both, and I've not found too big of a difference in the quality of the flavor. So this is your topping, already done, and then we'll brush that on in 30 minutes. that we've cooked it for the first 30 minutes, we're going to pull it out. As you can see, make sure you have a pan big enough because apparently mine's dripping over a little bit. Shut up. It looks divine, doesn't it? And we will now take our first application of sauce. I got me a little brush, and we're going to brush it on because it adheres better to the cooked meat than it does to the raw meat. It creates that nice golden crust and dark brown color. And remember folks, color equals flavor. Just like when you're frying in a pan and you get burnt little things on the bottom of your frying pan, and then you deglaze the pan into your whatever you're making, that dark burned stuff actually is flavor. Always remember that. Thank you, Rachel Ray. Now that we have the top completely glazed for the first time, we will take it and put it back into the oven. I'm going to put it back in after we've glazed it. Set the timer for approximately 40 more minutes. Place it on a hot plate. And you always want to temp your food. You need to be at least at 165 degrees internally to know that your meatloaf is done. We are there, right where we need to be, 165. What you'll do is you'll let your meatloaf sit for 20 to 30 minutes so it can reabsorb any juices before you pull it out of your pan and place it on your serving plate. And then you can slice it up, lay it out on your plate, and put the rest of your sauce, drizzle it over the top, and you've got your completed easy meatloaf for dinner. I'd like to take the opportunity and say thank you for watching. I'm your host, Sammie.